Alright, here we go with section 9.1, homework number 1. And I'm just going to kind of read it through with you and then kind of highlight some stuff. A point estimate, oops, get my marker going, is the value of a statistic that estimates the value of the parameter. So if I want to know about P, the population proportion, I got to spell right here. It's early. If I want to know about the population proportion, or the percent of the population that has some characteristic, then I'm going to estimate with p hat a sample, which is x over n. This is my sample proportion, and this is my point estimate for the true population proportion. Alright, number 5, the level of confidence of a confidence interval as it increases, what happens to the margin of error. Now remember, for p hat, the confidence interval is p hat plus or minus z star times the standard deviation, which is p hat q hat over n. That's our best estimate for the standard deviation. And so if the confidence increases, how does that change this equation? Well, z gets bigger, because remember, for 90%, z star is 1.645, and for 95%, z star is 1.96, and for 99%, z star is 2.576, if I remember that correctly. And so as the confidence increases, this number right here gets bigger, so this number gets bigger. And that's actually my margin of error. Okay, does that make sense? So that's what I'm adding and subtracting to get my confidence interval. It's p hat minus the margin of error, p hat plus the margin of error. Okay, 6. As the sample size increases, what happens to the margin of error? Oh, since I'm dividing by n, right here, if n gets bigger and bigger, think about 100, 1,000, 10,000 kind of thing, this fraction gets smaller and smaller. So that would mean my margin of error decreases. So if I increase the confidence, that makes it bigger, but if I increase my sample size, that makes it smaller. And a smaller interval is better, right? Because I'm trying to estimate the population proportion, and it doesn't really help if I say, oh, the confidence interval is from 40% to 60%. I want a confidence interval that's like from 48% to 50% or something like that. Make sense? Okay, there's 6. 11. Determine the point estimate of the proportion, the margin of error for each, and the number of individuals with the specified characteristic for the sample size provided. Okay, so we've got this is for number 11. For my confidence interval, it starts at 0.201 or 20.1% and goes to 24.9, and I know my sample size is 1200. Okay, well, notice the point estimate, which is what we want, that's the middle of my confidence interval, because that's what p, let's come down here, that's what p hat is. That's the middle. I add and I subtract the margin of error. So if I find the middle of this, which is halfway between them, which is 0.201 plus 0.249, ooh, I put an extra decimal in there, sorry, divided by 2, and I've got my calculator on the side here, 0.201 plus 0.249, enter, divided by 2, is 0.225. That's that guy. That's halfway between. So then what's my actual margin of error? It's what am I adding to get there and what am I subtracting? So it's 0.249 minus 0.225. minus 0.225. That's going to be 0.024. And then let's do the difference from the middle to this way. 0.225 minus 0.201. It better be the same, which it is, 0.024. So this is the middle of my interval, so that is p hat. So I've got my point estimate, which is 0.225. I've got the margin of error, which is, we said was this, well actually I didn't say it, it's this. This is my margin of error, because my confidence interval is p hat plus or minus the margin of error, which is going to be 0.225 plus or minus 0.024. And if you add and subtract, you will get that interval. Okay, does that make sense? Alright, now let's do the same thing on number 13. You do number 13. Then come back. Okay, here we go. 0.462, 0.509, and is 1680. So that's my sample size. So the estimate, remember, my confidence interval is plus or minus the margin of error. Well, how do you find halfway between? I do 0.462 plus 0.509. Oops. Enter. Divided by 2. That's halfway between them. Is 0.4855 plus or minus the margin of error. So this is the middle of the interval. And if I want to know how far up do I add and subtract, I'm just going to do 0.509 minus the middle. And I get 0.0235. So my confidence interval is 0.4855 plus or minus 0.0235, and that is the margin of error here, and this right here is my point estimate. Alright, there is up to 13. We'll pick up the other ones on the next video.